Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nayaswami Padma, and I'm here today to bring you the noontime inspiration from the teachings, the original teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. I'm reading from Swami Kriyananda's autobiography, The New Path. And in this section, Dr. Lewis, Yogananda's first disciple in the West, is relating some stories. He says, we weren't as familiar in those days with the Master's methods as you all are now. We didn't know the wonderful things he could do. For that matter, we didn't know what any master could do. By now, people have had years to get to know him better. It was more difficult then for us to have the kind of faith you all have in him. In that episode of the condemned man, for instance, the Master never told us that he'd done anything to help him. He rarely speaks of the wonderful things that he does. It's just that when things keep on happening around him, you begin to wonder. On that occasion, it was only after the reprieve that I began to suspect strongly that the Master had had a hand in the matter. So this touches on something that I spoke about last week, which is that a true master, a true spiritual giant, will never draw attention to themselves, will never claim authorship of any particular action or things that happen around them. They're always living in attunement with God's will. And so they're simply dancing through the story, you might say, as playing the part that God wants them to play in that circumstance. They wouldn't dream of, hoisting the curtain on the stage and showing the wizard behind the curtain. They just simply act in the circumstances appropriate to what God wants. For not what God wants, what our karma dictates and what the divine will is in that circumstance. Because, in any situation, it affects us and therefore, of course, our karma. But almost always it also affects other people around us and other circumstances around us. It becomes like a domino effect. It becomes like a very complicated play, you might say. And so the actions are not random. They're conscious. I mean, this is just a very tiny little thing, but I'm thinking of it now. I received some paperwork recently, and it was around a situation with my parents, and my parents are long gone from this earth plane, and it described one of their last, not the last, but one of the last addresses where they lived. They were in unit 32, unit number 32. Well, I had completely forgotten that. But here, my husband Riemann and I are currently residing in the Ananda community in Linwood in unit number 32. Now, it's a small thing, I grant you. It's just a little detail, but it also feels a little cosmic sometimes. that these coincidences are all around us, because life is not random and things happen for a reason. Our actions and our reactions, depending on what they are, bring us to a different outcome. And so it's not important for us to try to understand it with our minds. That's why Yogananda didn't explain it in words. It's important for us to understand these things intuitively and to learn bit by bit to live more intuitively. And that's the reason that he didn't take authorship for these things. He made those around him reach for it, not, outside of themselves, but within, through intuition. So, joy to you, and we'll see you again next week. Blessings.